All right, my friends, if this didn't seem simple, let's make sure we can make it simple. So first thing, introduce variables. They're asking you to find two things. So for this problem, we're going to need to find two variables. They asked you to find the airspeed. So I'm going to go ahead and just let the letter A represent airspeed of the plane. And then they also asked you to find the average wind speed. So I'm just going to let W equal, we'll just say average wind speed. I suppose they should have asked for average airspeed as well, but anyway. Okay, so those are the two variables. Remember, whatever they're asking you to find is typically what you need variables for. Okay, the next thing, let's talk about the relationship between distance, rate, and time. If you take your average rate and multiply it by your time that you've been going at that rate, then you would get the distance that you've traveled. So the relationship that we'll be relying upon here is that distance is equal to your rate times your time. Okay. All right. Next thing, let's just go ahead and fill in the little squares here. I like these tables a lot. If you're ever like lost with how to set these up, these little tables can be pretty helpful. So let's just kind of put the numbers in where they go. Distance, if it's 2,400 to go from Seattle to New York, then it would be 2,400 to come back for the most part. And then let's see, that would equal your rate. Let's see, we're supposed to find your rate, so I'm gonna leave that off until last. Now let's fill in the time. Let's see, where would the 6 hours go? That would be the amount of time it took to go from New York. Oh, there's a typo here. New York to Seattle. Oh, lots of typos. Weird. I wonder what happened there. Anyway, 6 hours to go from New York to Seattle, and then it only took 5 hours to get back. And how come it only took 5 hours to get back, do you think? And how come it took longer? Well, lots of typos on here. Weird. Anyway, how come it took so much longer, to go one direction than the other if it was the same amount of time? So here's the idea. The idea is that on one direction, the wind was helping the airplane along, and then on the other direction for the other flight, the wind was kind of slowing the plane down. So hopefully that makes sense. So which trip would the wind have been helping the plane along? I hope it makes sense. The wind would have been helping the plane along for the trip that took less time. So the rate the airplane would have been moving at would be a combination of the airspeed, as in how fast would the airplane have been going if there was no wind, but then plus the wind was also making it go faster. So the rate that we'd use for the Seattle to New York trip would be airspeed plus wind speed. But the New York to Seattle trip, that one took longer because the wind was slowing the airplane down. So that in that case, the rate would have been the airspeed, but then minus the wind speed. Hopefully that makes sense, everybody. So I've got my system of equations. I've got 2,400 would equal 6 times A minus W, and 2,400 would equal 5 times A plus W. And then up to you how you want to solve a system of equations like this. I personally like the idea of taking row 1 there and multiplying it by 1/6. Because 2,400 is really easy to divide by 6. That would be 400. And then the 6 would cancel out on the right side. And you just have the quantity A minus W. And then we could do 1/5 times row 2. Let's see, 5 would go into 2,400. How many times? 480 times, I think. And then on the right side, we'd have A plus W. And so this system of equations is equivalent to the one that we started out with. And now I would just personally just add the rows together because I'd get the W's to cancel out or to drop out. So if you add these two together, what would we have? We'd have 880. And then on the right side, you just have 2A. And then divide both sides by 2, and you get that the average airspeed would have been 440 miles per hour. And then you could back substitute to anywhere that makes sense to you. I really like this little row right here for that. So you could see you'd have 480 would be 440 plus the average wind speed. Oops, 440, not 444. There we go. And so the average wind speed would be 40. There we go. Don't forget, story problems deserve story answers. So conclusion would be, therefore, the average airspeed was 440 miles per hour, and the average wind speed was 40 miles per hour. There we go. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, my friends, last problem. This one is available on that little handout as well. Let's see. So suppose you combine ingots of 25% copper alloy and 50% copper alloy to create 40 grams of 45% copper alloy. How many kilograms of each do you need? All right. Big hint, start by introducing variables. Then this table is here. It's optional, but I personally do find it helpful for organizing things and then getting my system of equations. All right, my friends, see how it goes. Check in with me in the next video. Good luck.